Hello, welcome to the Infidelityy Stories channel, where we present authentic narratives filled with surprising turns. If you found the video enjoyable, consider subscribing and giving it a thumbs up. It truly contributes to the growth of our channel. Now, let's immerse ourselves in the narrative. I entered into marriage at the age of 19. Naive, impulsive, and certain I had discovered my one true love. Our paths crossed unexpectedly at a friend's gathering, and just a few months later, I found myself making a proposal. In those days, I believed that love was meant to be experienced in that way, swift, all-consuming, as if it were lifted straight from the silver screen. Reflecting on those days, I was merely a child, completely unaware of my path. In the initial years, all appeared to be well. Of course, we had our disagreements now and then, but I believed that was just part of the process. I overlooked the warning signs, the late evenings, the unexpected business travels, the moments when she gazed at me as if I were an unfamiliar face. I reassured myself that she was merely under pressure, that the challenges of marriage were significant, and that I should strive to be more compassionate. Then arrived the murmurs, companions letting slip suggestions, subtle remarks from those who appeared to possess knowledge I lacked. Initially, I dismissed it with a chuckle. She simply wouldn't do that. Not her. Not us. Yet, the indications grew increasingly difficult to overlook. She began to protect her phone as if it contained classified information. She returned home, the scent of an unfamiliar cologne lingering in the air. When I inquired, she offered excuses, always so polished, so persuasive as if she had rehearsed them. There was a part of me that yearned to trust her words. I had to trust her. Indeed, I did. Repeatedly. Then, one fateful night, I stepped into the haunting reality I had spent years denying. I arrived home sooner than I had anticipated. She didn't pick up her phone, and an instinct deep within urged me to head directly to our bedroom. The door stood ajar. Voices echoed around me. Her voice, gentle and filled with laughter, intertwined with another's. I ought to have retraced my steps. I ought to have departed. I opened the door instead. And there they stood. She remained silent. She appeared completely untroubled. She simply gazed at me, as if this moment held no interest for her. As if she had anticipated it all along. The man. A certain individual. I barely recognized him. He swiftly took his clothes and departed in silence. I remained rooted to the spot, my mind struggling to comprehend the reality unfolding before me. She let out a sigh as if I were the one causing the trouble. Mike, let's not overreact. In that instant, a part of me broke apart. I did not raise my voice. I refrained from throwing things. I have just departed. Filled a bag. I stepped out and didn't glance back. The separation unfolded swiftly. She accepted it without resistance. What would motivate her to do that? She had already advanced to the next chapter before I even realized I was still lingering in the past. I expected to experience a sense of relief. Instead, I felt empty. For weeks, I felt like a mere shadow of myself. Rest eluded me, and nourishment felt impossible. I would find myself lying awake at night, revisiting each memory in my mind. Each instance when I ought to have recognized the reality. I despised my own ignorance. That's quite foolish. Friends offered their support, yet their words seemed hollow. You'll discover someone more suited for you. Such things occur. Simply return to the scene. Yet, I desired no one else. I yearned for the return of my former life. The existence I believed was mine. My mother expressed concern for my well-being. I noticed it in the way she lingered. Her attempts to usher me out of the house were quite something. Yet it was her companion, Lilia, who truly perceived my essence. A man utterly consumed by his sorrow. She refrained from offering me any guidance. She never suggested that I should move on. She simply absorbed the words. For the first time in weeks, a sense of companionship washed over me. Lilia was a constant presence. She and my mother collaborated for many years. She had always been a familiar presence at family gatherings, holidays, and birthday celebrations throughout my upbringing. However, to be truthful, I didn't truly focus on her much. She was perpetually present. A mature lady. Warm-hearted, perpetually cheerful, yet somehow always just beyond grasp. She was a friend of my mother. And that encapsulated my entire perception of her. However, everything transformed following the divorce. I found myself in disarray. It was more than mere heartbreak. It was the sensation of defeat. I had devoted nearly 10 years to someone. Thought I was building a life. And then everything crumbled. At 28, I found myself residing in my mother's guest room. Experiencing a sense of emptiness. Lilia began to visit more frequently. Initially, I believed it stemmed from her concern for my well-being. My mom had engaged in many conversations with her. It seems Lilia perceived the same thing my mom did. I wasn't precisely in a good place. Yet, it was more than mere concern. Her gaze held a new intensity that I couldn't quite place. She didn't treat me like a kid anymore. As if a person were merely navigating a difficult moment in their life. Her gaze held a gentle warmth as it met mine. There was a moment that made me feel truly seen by her. More than merely her friend's son. However, Mike. The man who was in pain. She entered without a hint of sympathy. She refrained from urging me to discuss what had transpired. She simply delivered coffee or lunch to me. Take a seat beside me. If I wished to speak, I would do so. Or most times, we sat in silence. She would inquire about my feelings. Yet, she always left me with the freedom to choose whether to respond. And that was unexpectedly soothing. There was a night that stands out vividly in my memory. The hour was late. At approximately 9 in the evening. There I was, perched on the couch. Staring at my phone. Not particularly engaged in any activities. Simply drifting away. Lilia had come over with a pot of soup. She always did this. Even when I expressed that I wasn't feeling hungry. Yet, on that particular night. She lingered for a moment before departing. We found ourselves seated in that moment. Engaging in a conversation that meanders without a specific focus. When she inquired about the divorce. I had steered clear of it for some time. Yet, she possessed a softness. Merely inquiring with straightforward questions. How was the experience? She inquired. What transpired? For the first time since the events unfolded. I gave it considerable thought. Truly examined it. And I simply fell apart. I had been keeping it bottled up for such an extended period. Refusing to acknowledge it. I believed that if I took that step, I would be completely overwhelmed by it. Yet, in that instant, it felt as though a deluge had been unleashed. I was indifferent to the fact that it was Lilia. A friend of my mother. She was not my mother. She wasn't someone I had known since childhood. She simply existed in that moment. Presenting me with a unique opportunity that others could not provide. Her words were few. She refrained from sharing any tired platitudes about moving forward. Or about how I would be okay. She simply absorbed the words. Upon completion. She softly remarked. You were worthy of so much more, Mike. You were not worthy of any of that treatment. I'm uncertain about the reason. Yet, listening to her express. That lifted my spirits just a bit. Perhaps I wasn't the sole person with that thought. Perhaps my faith in love wasn't misplaced after all. When it appeared that all hope had been lost. In the coming weeks, Lilia and I shared more moments together. I began to anticipate her visits with excitement. Initially, I was unaware of it. Yet, I found myself starting to rely on her. Whenever she visited, I experienced a sense of security. Increased comfort. I began to open up to her. Unbeknownst to oneself. She had no intention of mending my flaws. She wasn't guiding me on what steps to take, or the path to recovery. She simply existed in that moment. I was unaware of it at that moment. Yet, a subtle transformation was starting to take place within me. An unexpected turn of events. Yet there was an undeniable truth. Perhaps for the first time in several months, I sensed a presence beside me. I found it challenging to articulate the emotions swirling within me. But Lilia had transcended the role of a mere friend to me. She was evolving into something greater, without either of us voicing it aloud. It was a Thursday when I first sensed that something had shifted. Lilia visited in the afternoon, as she had always done. Yet, on this occasion, it felt distinct. She arrived empty-handed. There is no food available. Without coffee. She simply appeared. Take a seat beside me on the couch. Then our conversation began. Initially, it lacked depth or intensity. We discussed the weather. Here comes the most recent update. Minor details. Ordinary matters. Yet the atmosphere surrounding us seemed denser. Somehow electrified. I sensed it deeply. Although we kept silent on the matter. Perhaps it was solely my perception. Yet, an unsettling sensation lingered, as if the very fabric of reality was undergoing a transformation. She had no intention of impressing me. It wasn't an attempt to comfort me. And that's what rendered it so much more difficult to overlook. I believe I had become quite accustomed to others extending their sympathy towards me, or offering me the insight that Lilia's presence resembled a subtle tempest, gradually developing in complete silence. It was in the midst of one of those quiet moments, as we sat together in that moment, that she finally regarded me in a new light. It felt as though she was perceiving me in a manner she never had previously. Her eyes held no trace of pity. No criticism. Simply comprehending. Additionally, there is another point to consider. A touch of warmth. I recall how she inclined her body just a bit. For the first time, it felt like something more than just a casual gesture. Her perfume lingered in the air, a scent so close I could almost reach out and touch it. Something understated yet powerful. An aroma that evoked an unusual sense of solace. I remained still. The rapid thumping of my heart left me uncertain about how to proceed. Or the sensation of constriction in my chest. Your burden of pain is beyond my comprehension. She spoke in a gentle whisper. Her voice was soft. However, you will overcome this challenge. You possess more strength than you realize, Mike. I acknowledged with a nod. I find it difficult to express my thoughts. The words lingered, caught in my throat. She was completely unaware of the depth of my gratitude for her. How much I relied on her presence to remain constant. Yet, I found myself unable to act, for within me lingered the understanding that what I craved transcended mere friendship. The moment lingered for just a few seconds. Perhaps just a minute. Yet, it seemed to stretch on forever. It seemed as though she understood precisely what I was seeking, regardless of whether I did or not. I attempted to brush it aside. I attempted to convince myself that it was insignificant. Just me feeling a bit isolated. It's simply me becoming overly invested. As she departed that evening, her hand rested gently on my shoulder. Only for a moment. Her gaze was so intense that it brought everything within me to a standstill. It was more than merely a friend's act of solace. It transcended the ordinary. In the coming days, I found myself revisiting that moment over and over in my mind. It was hard to discern whether my mind was playing tricks on me, or if there was indeed something present. Perhaps it was merely her kindness shining through. It was simply the compassion of a soul who understood the depths of sorrow. Yet, I found it impossible to dismiss the sensation that had taken root within me. Once more, it occurred. 1 week later. Once my mom departed for a few days on a business trip. Lilia stopped by. There we were, just the two of us, nestled on the couch. Initially, her words were few. Yet, I sensed the pressure mounting. I was at a loss regarding how to handle it. A boundary had been crossed in my thoughts. However, I had no desire to traverse it in reality. I was hesitant to jeopardize it all. Particularly considering her connection as a friend of my mom. Yet, when she gazed at me that evening, it was distinct. Her gaze held on to mine, a moment suspended in time. The manner in which her lips seemed to hover, as if on the brink of utterance yet remaining silent. This is not something I can claim as simple, she remarked. Her voice was a mere whisper. However, I wish for you to understand, Mike. I have arrived. Your well-being matters to me. I took a deep breath, struggling to suppress the feelings that were surging within me. She was no longer merely providing comfort. She was presenting an essence that resonated on a profound level. There was an experience that frightened me more than anything else. Yet, in that instant, I found it impossible to detach myself. The truth that had been quietly accumulating between us for weeks was impossible to ignore. Thus, before I fully grasped my actions, I leaned in closer. I failed to consider. I simply took action. Our lips collided in a moment of shared intimacy. Softly at the beginning. Yet, the instant our lips met, everything within me seemed to align perfectly. The significance extended beyond the kiss alone. It encompassed all that lay beneath. She hesitated for a moment before withdrawing. Her breath trembled. Mike, she murmured softly. Yet, the turmoil was evident in her gaze. We ought not to. I found myself at a loss for words. A part of me felt the urge to express regret, to convey that this was an error. Yet, there exists another facet of my being. The section that had been throbbing for an extended period yearned to push forward endlessly. Yet, I found myself uncertain about the significance of it all. I had just ventured into territory I never imagined I would explore. However, the inquiry was, is it possible for me to return? Even if I had the desire to do so. Did I have the desire to? The days following the kiss unfolded in a seemingly infinite cycle of bewilderment. That moment kept echoing in my mind. Yet, each time I attempted it, the boundaries of what was just, the unfolding events became increasingly indistinct. Lilia. I still haven't mentioned it. It felt as if we were both aware that a shift had occurred. Yet, neither of us was prepared to confront the reality. I repeatedly reassured myself that I was merely experiencing a sense of vulnerability. This felt like merely a fleeting diversion. I was still coming to terms with my divorce. My life had been completely transformed. Time was essential for my healing process. Avoiding the temptation of diving into something unfamiliar. Particularly not with Lilia, a friend of my mother. Yet, the reality was, she occupied my mind relentlessly. She offered a different kind of support that went beyond what my mom provided. She felt something deeper than mere pity for me. Lilia grasped my essence like no one else could. She understood the weight of loss. To experience betrayal. She had endured her own sorrowful experiences. The way she gazed at me was unmistakable. It was as if she grasped the depths of my suffering. Every ounce of my frustration. Without the need for me to clarify anything at all. This was unfamiliar to me. I had never experienced being seen like this before. Not like Lilia did. And when she reached out to me the day following the kiss, I nearly chose to remain silent. I felt a wave of apprehension about her potential response. Fearful of the words that may escape my lips. Yet, I found it impossible to overlook. I could no longer evade the reality. Mike. Her voice carried a hint of hesitation. It felt as if she had been anticipating my decision to end the call. However, I did not. It's time for a conversation. I understand. I stated. My tone is monotone. It felt as if voicing it transformed it into something tangible. Indeed, we do. A lengthy silence hung in the air. Once more, her voice filled the air. Her voice was gentler this time. Observe. I find myself in a state of confusion. But I don't want to make things harder for you. I understand that you're in pain. I realize that I'm not helping the situation at all. However, I want to hold on to whatever this is. The sincerity in her voice resonated with me. She had no intention of toying with my feelings. She had no intention of using me to fill any emptiness in her existence. She shared my confusion. And yet, she was the one ready to confront it directly. I'm at a loss for words. I responded. My voice trembles ever so slightly. This caught me off guard. I never anticipated having these feelings for you. She let out a weary breath. The sound weighed down by emotions I was unprepared to confront. I understand. I was just as surprised. However, I believe. It seems we are both in search of something genuine. Something that arrives free of expectations and obligations. Only we. The impact of her words struck me more profoundly than I had expected. I never considered it from that perspective. What if she was indeed correct? What if we broke free from the conventional constraints? Are we destined to follow the same routes that society has mapped out for us? What if we could embrace a world without the need for labels? What if we could simply be two souls who discovered solace in one another? Free from all the complexities. Do you really think this is a wise choice? I inquired. Still uncertain. Continuing to cling to that anxiety about what could unfold next. Well, you see. We are discussing a different matter altogether. You are a friend of my mother. You're not merely someone I can. The sentence remained unfinished. It seemed inappropriate to even attempt. I understand. She replied in haste. It felt as though she had a direct line to my thoughts. However, I am more than merely a friend of your mother, Mike. I'm not here merely to feel sorry for you or to look after you. I find myself in this place by choice. Because I perceive you. I believe we are both worthy of something genuine. Just for a brief moment. I remained quiet. I was attempting to comprehend her recent statement. Can I find the strength to believe in something genuine once more? Is it possible for me to release the burdens of my history? Shall we take this one step forward? I'm uncertain about whether I can truly release this. I ultimately came to terms with it. The aftermath of the divorce still weighs heavily on me, Lilia. I'm uncertain if I can take on anything else at this moment. I'm not requesting anything additional, Mike. She responded. I seek what resonates with my instincts. For our current requirements. There's no need to have everything figured out. Please don't exclude me. I found myself unable to express that I wasn't prepared. Not when every fiber of my being yearned to embrace what she was presenting. I hoped that perhaps this could be the type of connection I've longed for. Something genuine. Something straightforward. But could I truly detach my emotions from all that surrounds me? Can I genuinely open my heart to trust once more? Particularly with an individual so surprising? I'll see you tonight, she said, her voice unwavering. Yet, I could sense the doubt lurking beneath the surface of tranquility. Absolutely, I asserted, attempting to project a confidence I didn't quite possess. I will be present. I ended the call, a swirl of anticipation and apprehension coursing through me. I was uncertain about the direction this was taking. Yet, there was one certainty that I held close. The landscape of life had irrevocably shifted. The past few weeks have been a flurry of activity. Yet, somehow, it seemed as though all events had converged to culminate in this very instant. Lilia and I kept meeting regularly. Exactly as we discussed. A bond free from demands. Devoid of commitments. We were two souls who discovered something genuine in the wake of our individual sorrows. And that sufficed for us. Or at least, that's what I continually reassured myself. Yet, as time passed, the intricacies of our relationship deepened. Not due to the emotions we shared for one another. That section was unmistakable. Everything else was what truly complicated matters. The world we inhabited. The individuals in our vicinity. The burden of the decisions we had taken. Being with Lilia made it effortless to overlook the repercussions. In our moments together, it was as if the world beyond us faded away entirely. Yet, the truth was inescapable. Lilia's presence had transformed into a vital source of support. And I was certain she shared those feelings. Despite our efforts to reassure ourselves that we were merely two souls seeking comfort in one another, I could feel the subtle strain beneath the surface. This was not sustainable indefinitely. The more time I spent in this, the more it began to seem like I was overlooking something significant. A desire for something lasting. The future had not been a topic of our conversation. Not quite. We had a conversation about how everything was okay and that labels weren't necessary. Yet, beneath the surface, I understood that this situation was not sustainable as it stood. Lilia had transcended the role of merely being my mom's friend. She had transformed into a figure of greater importance. And that filled me with fear. It frightened me because I wasn't prepared to make a commitment. I wasn't prepared to expose myself to the world once more. Not long after all that transpired with my former spouse. The ache from my divorce lingered, raw and unhealed. I still lacked complete confidence in my own abilities. Not to mention anyone else. And the idea of confronting those feelings once more. Of allowing someone to re-enter. Experienced an intense wave of emotions. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow, I took Lilia home after a serene dinner together. Our conversation was sparse during the journey. Upon our arrival, it was clear to me that we both recognized the necessity of addressing the unspoken tension between us. Yet, we were both at a loss for where to start. The stillness that hung in the air between us carried a unique weight this evening. Weightier. As if it held greater significance. We parked, and I faced her, striving to maintain a calm tone. Lilia, we must have a conversation. Her gaze became gentle. It was as though she had been anticipating this moment all along. I understand, she responded. Her voice was scarcely more than a breath. It seems I've been aware for some time now. I brushed my fingers through my hair, searching for the perfect expression. I have no intention of causing you any pain. However, I'm uncertain about the next steps to take. This is unclear to me. And I fear what it could evolve into. I'm not prepared for a commitment right now. And I doubt I ever will be. Not after all that's transpired. Lilia gazed at me, her eyes lingering for what felt like an eternity. Her expression was a mystery. For a moment, I wondered if she was upset. Yet, she offered a gentle smile, tinged with a hint of sadness. Mike, there's no need to have everything figured out at this moment. I'm not requesting anything from you that you aren't prepared to offer. What we share, it holds authenticity. And it stands perfectly, just as it is. Indeed, you have a point. We can't continue to dance around this, acting as if we don't both desire something deeper. A lump began to rise in my throat. Her words pierced through me more profoundly than I had anticipated. Yet, she held no anger towards me. She grasped my essence. She had always possessed that quality. I wish to hold on to you tightly. I spoke softly, my voice heavy with feeling. However, I doubt I can provide you with what you truly deserve. You are worthy of so much more than what I can provide at this moment. She extended her hand and softly rested it on mine, her touch enveloping me in warmth and comfort. Mike, I'm not requesting that you resolve every issue. I'm not expecting you to be flawless. I request your honesty with me. That's everything I require. I nodded, a wave of unexpected relief washing over me. The burden I had been shouldering for weeks. The weight of forcing something into a mold it was never designed for started to ease at last. We are both on our journey to recovery, she said, her tone gentle yet resolute. We have endured many challenges together. Perhaps we aren't fully prepared for all that accompanies our union. However, that doesn't imply we can't continue to be involved in each other's lives. It simply signifies that we must approach each day as it comes. In that moment, the atmosphere surrounding us felt unclouded. There existed neither anger nor resentment, only a shared understanding. We were unprepared for a shared future. And that was perfectly fine. What we experienced was genuine. At times, that's truly all one can hope for. I believe you have a valid point, I exclaimed, at last able to draw in a full breath once more. I believe it's time to release what no longer serves me. However, that doesn't imply that my feelings for you are any less, Lilia. I don't regret what we've shared. It simply indicates that we must progress in a way that aligns with our own principles. She nodded, giving my hand another gentle squeeze. Everything will be fine, Mike. We shall forever remain. We lingered in silence for a few moments more, the weight of our words settling around us. The conclusion unfolded differently than I had envisioned. Yet, it was the choice that resonated the most. We were destined to be all right. Life will continue its course. We would too. Apart, yet without any animosity or resentment. I pressed my lips gently against her cheek. For the first time in weeks, a sense of tranquility washed over me. Our paths were never destined to intertwine in the manner I had once envisioned. Yet, we discovered a treasure within one another. And that alone was sufficient. As I drove away that night, a sense of wholeness enveloped me. I felt grounded. It seemed as though I had at last discovered the insight necessary to progress. Taking my time. Without any expectations. Yet, with the realization that I was prepared to embark on a new journey, guided by my own principles. And that sufficed.